Oh, of course. Actually, this is more like a brief commentary. My name is Hal Lohr, and I am the chairman of Independent California. And now this is the second month that we've spoken with conservative representatives from outside the state, and I would like to thank them all for their participation. I think this has been very informative. We've enjoyed listening to varying points of view. Um, we thank you all very much for participating. Um, Having said that, now um, we'll have to do a little bit of rebuttal. Now, I don't want to go into the weeds, and I don't want to discuss the gory details. But what we need to do is we need to talk about some things and some points here from a California standpoint. To start with, um, last Thursday, a man named Freddie Graham, in case you're unfamiliar, a man named Freddie Graham from Missouri took a plane to California, drove through the backwoods up near Palo Alto, setting 13 fires. In some of the worst fire season we have ever seen, this is a blatant attack
Yep.
on the people of California.
Absolutely.
When pundits talk about, when right wing pundits talk about, they talk about a civil war in America, this is what it will look like. It won't look like people with guns in the streets. It's not going to look like, we're not going to have an Antietam moment, and we're not going to have Gettysburg. It's going to be people, lone wolves, and people traveling around doing horrible things. And if this is the future that we want to see, then we are on the right track for this. And we need to do something. If that's not what you want, then we need to do something about it. President Trump today, U.S. President Trump, tweeted there will be no more aid for California wildfires or for their victims. Now, if we have conservative lone wolves setting fires and a conservative president that says there will be no further aid to California for those fires, and we live in California, a donor state, that means that our own money will not be coming back to us to help the fire victims that so desperately need it. Now, let me ask you, what does Civil War 2.0 look like? That's what we're facing. And if this is a Fort Sumter moment, is this where we want to be? Is this where you want to be? The solution we have is for a peaceful exit for California. This does not need to happen. These things don't have to happen. We've talked about legislation. We listened in great detail about the Second Amendment and support for such. About tax regulation, about how the government faces regulations. The government is putting in place regulations that are making business difficult in red states and so forth across the country. What do you think those things are doing here? I am the husband of a teacher. I'm the father of a girl who is going through the last of her internship to become a teacher. My sister-in-law is a teacher. My mother-in-law was a teacher. My father-in-law was a teacher. I have to tell you, my support for the Second Amendment when it comes to school shootings and so forth isn't as high as yours. I'll tell you something else. I heard a lot of talk. We saw people waving guns and talking about guns, and these are our guns, and we have a God-given right to guns, and guns are guns and guns. This is California. I'm going to tell you something you already know. We already know how to go after your guns. We've already done it many times and in many different ways. We'll continue to do so. We know how to take your guns from you if it really comes to that. And I'll tell you now, every shooting in America brings that reality closer to happening. You're losing the public opinion war. You're also losing the demographics war. More and more people are owning less and less guns, and fewer people are owning more. You say there are 300 million guns in the country. What happens when there are more than 300 million people in the country who do not want to see them anymore? What do you do then? You can argue with me if you want. I would be perfectly willing to sit down and to have that discussion with you. But all I'll say is, you know about the bullet ban. You know how the right to keep those arms can be whittled away one little bit at a time. And we are very good at it. Regulations, whether it has to do with property or what have you, we face the same things you do here in California. We honestly do. You say that we are socialists. We say socialism is only getting something back for your tax money, which we don't get. We pay a lot into the federal system, and we get back pennies on the dollar. About 60 cents on the dollar, 65. That's normal. Red states pass laws that basically limit the amount of tax revenue that they will allow their citizens to pay. And then they receive $2 on the dollar back.
That's right.
Where do you think that cash came from? The federal government doesn't make money, it takes money. You know this. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. You say the federal government is a thief. Taxes are theft. I've heard that. I heard that time and time again as you spoke to us. Yes, the federal government takes money. They don't make money. If they give $2 per dollar they take in Missouri or in Mississippi, they take it from somewhere else. They take it from us to give to places that hate us. Like Mr. Graham, who flew all the way in from Missouri to set fires. So what I'm going to say to you is simple. Put it all aside, guns, regulations, socialism, whatever beef you have with California. There is one thing I'm going to tell you that doesn't require numbers. And I'll end it with this. The reason for you to support an exit for California becoming its own separate nation, is to get us out of America. You know that there are benefits to this. We see the benefits to this. We agree with you. There's another side to this too, and I want you to remember. The alternative is that California remains part of America, part of the USA. For our side, the liberals, the socialism, the anti-gun people, the people who would regulate all of the things you hate about, you seem to hate about California. Remember this, if we stay in the United States, we're going to have to turn the United States into California? Who's leading the charge for impeachment? Californians. Who's leading the charge for against your guns? Californians. Who is blocking oil drilling off the coast? Californians. It's probably in your best interests to really support our leaving. And I thank you for that. And with that, it's been a pleasure.